And good morning, everyone. Today is April 14th, 2013. This is, of course, the Tech Club show. I am Jason. And
I'm Mish.
Mish is here as well. Today's show, we have the latest headlines in the tech industry. Our topic for this week as well is the cloud. What is it, how you can use it, and how you can actually protect your data from it.
Mm-hmm.
So for starters, you can reach us at our website at smc.io. That's smc.io. There you will find all of our links on how to contact us, whether it's through email, Google+, Twitter.
Old-fashioned, just phone.
Phone.
Doesn't really change too much in the last, 100 years.
YouTube, our link to our YouTube channel. If you'd like, you can certainly subscribe to our YouTube channel because you can not only listen to us here on the RBN network via archive, but you can also have YouTube email you when we've uploaded the show there. Some people do listen that way. What else? Our phone number on the second half of the hour here on the show, we will take calls at 800-313-9443. So, headlines in the tech news. First one, this I thought, we'll go over this after the break as well. But a new service in New York City called Aereo. Very slick way of how they got around the broadcasters' control of their retransmissions of their shows. So actually after the break we'll go over that. But what else? Last week we reported, last week it was reported that worst PC sales drop in history in the first quarter of 2013. PC sales dropped. This is by a company called IDC that began tracking this data in 1994. Dropped 13.9, or pretty much 14%. That's actually the fourth decline in a row. And it seemed to be, we had about 1.6 and 8% and 8%, which was the second quarter of, the first quarter of 2012. Probably what kept that not falling any further was probably the holiday season.
Yeah.
And of course we're at about 14%. They had hoped that the sales slump could have been reversed by the Ultrabooks, which are the super thin notebook computers.
It didn't work out.
They haven't really worked out. The sales have really tanked. Even Windows 8, Microsoft was hoping Windows 8 would reverse the sales slump. That they actually say that actually may have made it worse.
Yes. Very good. Next is, we talked about hard drives last time, and I don't think we got to this news article, but the movie site Vudu, V-U-D-U. Catch us on the other side of the break. Be right back. Back, basically before the break, I was going over a little news item about how a movie site Vudu had a bunch of their hard drives stolen from their actual offices. It wasn't like a hacker; it was like somebody broke into their place and stole their stuff. And the hard drives had contained passwords, birth dates, mail address, account activities, email addresses, names, pretty much everything. Even hard drives, even credit card numbers, which is a security break. But it just shows that your data can be stolen by, yes, a hacker, but even if it, which we'll be talking about cloud stuff today, but basically it can be stolen by a person breaking into your house and saying, that's not mine.
And as mentioned before the break as well, there's a new service provider. We'll spend a few minutes on this because this is actually kind of interesting. Now, if you keep in mind, broadcasters control their retransmission of their shows online, licenses and so forth. And
expensive, actually.
It is expensive. Now, there's a company called Aereo, that's A-E-R-E-O, Aereo, has found actually a way around that. What they've done is they actually set up a farm of old-fashioned TV antennas.
They were able to make the old-fashioned TV antenna the size of your thumbnail.
Right. I'm sure these are HD TV antennas, which are smaller. Yes, this is similar to the ones you've used on your own roof, just way smaller. And they've actually put thousands of these up. It pulls in the broadcast signals, assigns each antenna to one of its customers. And then, using a server farm as the middleman, it streams that TV from those antennas to the customers via their internet connections. Anyone, right now it's only in New York metropolitan area, they can access for free streaming of live broadcast television for an hour a day, as long as there are available antennas. If they want to pay for Aereo, it ranges from $1 a day to $80 a year. And they get guaranteed access to the service. Premium users can also record the. This is only in New York, as I mentioned, and they track the connections through an IP combination of IP address, Wi-Fi triangulation, and a user's credit card billing address. If you are away from home, the restriction, being in New York, could be easily bypassed by clicking the button that says, but I am in my home market. Because, of course, people who use satellite internet won't have an IP address in their local area, won't have an IP address from the local area. Because typically, if you have a DSL or cable connection, the IP address is from your area, at least generally speaking. Anyhow, so there's actually been, the article is out on our website, which, by the way, if you go to our website, smc.io, if you click on the shows link, you'll see a list of all the shows we have done. And if you click on the respective show, for example, today's, you will see all the news articles that we reference or anything else that we reference on the air. So you can pull and read it yourself. This actually could get interesting because both CBS and the Fox network have actually threatened to move their networks to cable if Aereo goes into business nationwide. So that'd be interesting to watch.
Yes.
Anyhow, so on to our
main subject?
Main topic here, which is the cloud. What is
the cloud? It's the internet.
It is the internet, basically. It is a service that you use that is not physically located
in your location
at where you are. Laptop sitting in front of you, or your desktop computer sitting in front of you. If your information is saved to that hard drive, that's local. That's not the cloud. If that data is stored elsewhere, and that could be at Google servers, Microsoft servers, YouTube servers, that's the cloud. And the reason why it's called the cloud is because back in the olden days, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, when the internet was drawn on a
flowchart kind of thing,
flowchart type of thing, it was always drawn as a cloud.
Yeah.
It's out there, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's where the name the cloud came from.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really grown as more and more folks and businesses have gotten high-speed internet.
I wish I had high-speed internet.
And pretty much everyone uses the cloud. They may not realize it.
Yep.
If you have an email address at at Gmail or Yahoo.
You watch your TV through
YouTube.
YouTube.
Area or
Hulu or any of those services.
Because that data is saved on their servers, is not locally on your computer, that's the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much the internet, anything you use on the internet. Like, we do our email on the cloud.
Right, we used to run our own email server physically located on a box downstairs.
That got pain in the butt, nerve-wracking and annoying. Expensive.
Right, because, one thing with the cloud is
somebody else is doing it for you.
Someone else has the hardware, the equipment, the support.
Server farm.
They farm out it's because the cost of it is shared through all their users.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you having to buy like a $5,000 server with the software and all that and get an upgraded internet connection to handle the extra bandwidth, you may pay like $6 a month. If you pay for email service, it could be free because all those charges are divvied up between all their customers.
Mm-hmm. Or you have tons of ads. Same as it. Yeah.
Right, like Gmail and Yahoo, how they get around it is through the advertisements on their page.
And selling your email address and your contact information, personal identification, personal. Yeah.
They actually do have premium services, by the way. Yahoo, what is it, like
$20.
$20 a month, and you actually have
a full-fledged account.
A full-fledged account.
You can even
no ads.
You can even use a POP and SMTP to get your email, so it means that your Outlook and whatnot can get it. But it's a little more than I care for.
So most folks have been using cloud without probably realizing, especially if they've got a smartphone.
Oh, yes.
Nothing is really stored on those phones. It's all up in the cloud. If you have an Android phone, everything would be stored up at Google servers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had an iPhone, it'd be stored on Apple servers. Yes, that's how it works.
Yeah, it is how.
For all we know, who knows? Maybe back then they really share stuff. So
on the CIA's echelon system. Yeah.
Now you can use cloud computing for your benefit. There are more and more services out there that help you do your work.
Mm-hmm.
You can even get a phone system.
Yep.
Through the cloud. We have one of those. In the cloud, one of the drawbacks for the cloud is if you do not have internet,
or your internet is very spotty at best,
you can't access your data.
Yes.
Now, some companies like Microsoft with their Office 365 cloud-based service, even Google with their online docs, their Google Docs, are trying and testing out ways to have an offline mode, if you can call it that, of these services. So if you don't have internet, you can still access a version of your documents, and then when you come back online, it syncs everything up between your tablet or computer to the cloud. So, one example is the phones. Let's use the phones as a perfect example. We're all pretty much, or even Google Voice. So, for example, we're all obviously familiar with our old landline phones through the telco company. You can get typically called VoIP, Voice over IP is what it stands for, Voice over IP.
Vonage.
There are companies like Vonage, which you probably have seen advertisements for.
Usually your local cable company.
Ring Central.
Yep. That one's good for businesses. Highly recommend that one. And it's inexpensive.
Right. We actually use that one as well. And there's even Google Voice. So what happens is you go online, like I'll use mine as an example. I have a Google Voice number. Actually, you do too.
I do too. I don't remember it.
No, you can choose a local area, So you tell them what location you're in, and because it's VoIP, you can actually choose any number in the country you want. So when you go to Ring Central, when you go to Vonage, when you go to Google Voice, if you live in New York City, you can actually get a Los Angeles phone number. It doesn't matter to them. Where it comes into an issue, of course, if you're in New York City, any of your friends who call you would have to dial long distance.
Yes.
But again, you can get a number anywhere in the country. So once you get that number follows you. So unlike, again, if you live in New York City and you move out and go to LA, you're going to have to give up your phone number. You're going to have to give up your phone number and then get an LA number with a VoIP number that stays with you. All right, when we get back, we'll talk about the rest of the cloud.
This is the Tech Club. I am Mish, that is Jason, and we're talking about the cloud. And Jason was
going over an analogy of what the cloud was, using telephone service as a perfect example. If you were living in New York and you were, say, planning on moving out to LA, if you had a New York phone number, nowadays you would be stuck with the New York phone number. When you move out to LA, you would have to get a new phone number. You can't carry that number with you. With a VoIP connection, again, voice over IP, that's the internet, through the internet, that number can stay with you.
Yeah. That's actually one nice thing about Google Voice is the fact that you have to have a landline or cell phone attached to it. So what you can do is you could actually give out that always non-changing number, and you can have it automatically forward to your new cell phone, which you have no idea what the number is.
Right. So what happens, Google or Vonage or Ring Central or any one of these, what's that one that you see, the Magic Jack?
Yeah, Magic Jack.
What they end up doing is the call, if you want to call it that, goes back to their central office, and that gets rerouted to a local telco. If you're dialing Oklahoma City, you would go out to the local telephone company in Oklahoma City and dial out. So, and it's cheap over the internet. And that's why these prices are extremely cheap. But yes, with any one of these, actually, Google, that number can follow you in that when, say, somebody dials that number, you can set it to ring your office phone.
Yep.
And again, the person calling won't have that number. You can have it set to call your home number. And again, they won't, and if you don't answer it there, it's not like your home voicemail will pick up, but Google's voicemail will pick up. You can have it actually set to ring multiple devices at the same time.
Yes.
And at certain hours. You could say ring an office phone between 8 and 12, ring your cell phone between 12 and 1, back to your office between 1 and 5, and then even your home after hours. Google Voice is actually free. They do have a premium service. But Google Voice will also accept, and even Ring Central now will accept text messages, faxes,
voicemail.
You have the full range of, voicemail, caller ID, call blocking, call forwarding. Voicemails typically be emailed to you and then saved, of course.
Yes. Usually a file, which is awesome.
As a file, you can even log onto a control panel and look at all the details. Because it's all IP based. It's all
traceable. Actually,
it's all data. It's all traceable, all recorded, and so.
Not just somebody dialing on a phone and saying, "Hey, how's it going, Marv?"
Now again, if you don't have any internet, you can't access it. If your internet goes down, your cable connection goes down, your phones won't work. But as example, when we experienced, was it Irene?
Yes, nasal voice guy.
Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Irene in New We had satellite internet, which of course was not quick enough for it. We ended up using our cell phones because in our case, Ring Central had an app. Google Voice has an app. I'm sure Vonage has an app. They have an app for your phone where you open up the app and you can get your messages that way, your voicemail messages that way. You can dial out as if you were in the office. So most folks didn't even know we were, quote unquote, had no internet or down.
Yes.
We really weren't down.
Yeah.
So that helped out a lot. So that's an example of the cloud. Backing up your data is another example of the cloud.
That's how we say the cloud.
The internet. We actually reviewed one of those cloud options in last week's show, the backing up.
Yes.
If Mish wants to go over backing up how that works, again, the cloud.
Yes. Again, if you don't have the internet, you are stuck. But basically you are transferring all your data, your backup, to somebody's server somewhere in the world. And generally, like the one we recommend, where is it? Where are their servers located, remote data backups?
Well, they're located in Utah, but they have 2 server farms. One is a backup. One is on the West Coast. The other is on the East Coast. I can't remember specifically the town, but again, as we talked about last week, you want he does it perfectly. He has a disaster recovery site. He's in the West Coast, so he's not going to have a disaster recovery site.
So when the big
West Coast,
when the big tsunami comes in and Atlantis and goes underwater, and the Rockies are now the furthest west you can go, you still have your data on the East Coast, unless you get hit from both sides by a tsunami. Then anybody there is going to be very, very upset. Anyway, it's a break. We'll be right back to talk about more cloud stuff.
Sunny day here in Southwest Virginia. We are talking, of course, myself, Jason, and she's here as well. We, of course, are talking about the cloud coming through to show what it is, how to manage, how to actually protect your data. And this one in a minute. But if you have any questions, you can certainly give us a call at 800-313-9443. Our website is our website is smc.io. Which is consultants. smc.io. And you can find ways to contact us via phone and email and YouTube and Google Plus, Twitter, all that good stuff. So, before the break, like I said, we were talking about the cloud. What is it? And the cloud is basically data, when it comes to the internet, data being stored somewhere else, off-site. Most folks are using the cloud when they use their email, on their phone, or going to a website. SMC.io, for example. Phone service can be in the cloud, backing up into the cloud. It's actually pretty fancy when it comes to the cloud. Cloud, the reason why we called it the cloud was a number of years ago, the internet, and still is to this day, the internet is depicted as a cloud on flowcharts, for example, because it's everywhere. It's where the name came from, actually, believe it or not. So, I think Mish was going over backing up. We actually talked about it last week without even telling you, was the cloud. One of the ways you want to back up is off-site. So you don't want to back up something in your office and keep the hard drive there. You want to move that data somewhere else, whether it's Aunt Jemima's house, or
she makes great syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. That's why it's great.
I'm getting
you
diabetes.
Something tastes good when it's high fructose corn syrup.
Little diabetes, maybe some tooth decay. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Or some service that you've purchased that has one of the services we use has 2 server farms, one on each coast, West Coast and East Coast. So it's off-site, and it's good to have off-site because if something physically happens to your location, and that's actually one reason why we mentioned earlier in the show how we actually had our own email server in-house. That was one of the determining factors to move it to a cloud option, was in case something did happen to our physical location. When we moved to move it, it just, you had to clean it up. You had to, just a real pain in the butt.
Plus, servers people don't realize, particularly with how the electric company likes to screw you over, they're expensive.
The power because they're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, running at top-notch speed typically. So yes, that was one of the determining factors when we went to the cloud-based service. And yes, one of the drawbacks is, of course, we had mentioned earlier, is if you have internet, you can't get your email. But, if you have no internet, you probably can still access your email on your phone through your cell coverage. So,
and if you're using like a client, which is basically how a lot of the cloud stuff works, is like, Outlook and whatnot, it downloads your email to you so that you can actually have access to it.
Right, you'll have a copy of it on your computer. Some people say, well, what if the service goes down? Well, again, what if your email server or backup server in-house goes down?
Yeah.
Typically going down is not as bad in the cloud because it's usually a connectivity issue because, they have backups of servers who then have backups of them, who then have backups of them.
Yes.
So
redundancy is very redundant.
It has multiple redundancies. The other question asked is, what if that service folds? It goes, closes up shop. And that's obviously a very distinct possibility. There's not, and that's why you want if you're researching a company to back up your data, and that's why you don't want
the cheapest one.
The cheapest one, nor is that the only backup you have. You still want to back up
on-site, off-site kind of thing.
Right, so if something were to happen to that backup company. And again, if you do your research, you ask around, is it, any of your computer friends that who they would recommend. I joke that, if you ask 10 computer guys a question, you're going to get 11 opinions.
And they all stink, most of them.
But you'll still get a relatively good general idea to trust. Yes. I guess you can term it that way. OZ's been around for a while. Remote Data Backup's been around for a while. Carbonite's is a pretty solid, very solid company. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. There's all sorts of companies that have it. The antivirus company AVG started one. Started their own. I think it's called LiveVault. I can't remember.
They don't sell anymore, so I don't know.
Right. They started one a couple of years ago. While their service was new, They've been around for a long time. Symantec, also known as Norton's, they have a backup service. So, try to do research, find a reputable company, and the chances of them folding. Typically, what they do is get bought out, and obviously they do understand your data is the most important thing, and that's a very, 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 very big black eye if something were to loss. If they lose their customers' data. The other question people ask is, well, is my data safe there?
Yes and no.
I suppose, and the answer is, it's as safe there as it is
at Aunt Martha's if she gets broken into, or something like that.
Aunt Jemima's house.
Aunt Jemima and her waffles.
If you store your data at your Aunt Jemima's house, like Mish said, her house can, anything could happen, and meteorite could come crashing down through her roof, and she becomes a millionaire, and she doesn't care about her house anymore, moves to the Caribbean, and doesn't care about your backup that you left there.
Wow, that's a thought out.
Same thing can happen at these big backup companies, although probably less of a chance. If they were to have a fire or a flood or a meteorite hits their data center, they're probably not going to run out because they're already making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But we had talked about they have redundancies. They have servers that have backups of their main servers in another physical location. And that's one of the things you want to check when you do your research. Where are their physical data storage locations?
Yes.
Typically they're called server farms because it's just one server after the other.
And it's in a giant room, and it's up 32 degrees below zero, and you have to wear parka when you go in. The other thing to note about it is we're talking about like physical failings or whatnot, but safe as in privacy safe, it's the same basic idea. It's not as safe because these companies they have your stuff, and they do sign an agreement with you, and most of the time, when you hit accept, you're signing an agreement. But a government could just come in, a paramilitary could just come in and take your stuff. Most of this stuff is encrypted. Any reputable, legitimate company is going to encrypt your data so that even they can't read it. So that you have to put your password in, and I think Remote Data Backups has a 256-bit.
At the standard, typically, it's 256-bit encryption. But yeah, there's actually a story on that. It wasn't a backup company. There was a website, and I can't remember the details right now, but there was a website the federal government was after because whatever. In their eyes, they were doing something wrong. So they raided the web hosting company in the middle of the night, and instead of taking down just that one website, they actually physically took the entire server. It was a blade server. These blade servers are about 1 inch or 2 inches thick.
How much of them?
Just hard drives and stuff like that. They don't look like a typical desktop computer, but they're a blade. They slide into a rack. You could put probably, 30, 40 servers in one rack.
Yes, and the rack is about I'd say
8 foot high, 6 foot high.
Yeah, 6 foot high, and it's about maybe 1.5 foot wide by, usually they're deeper than it is, but you can fit a lot into those suckers.
So they took the physical entire server off site. So there were thousands and thousands of websites obviously became inaccessible while that blade server was gone.
Thank you, FBI government.
Now the data was encrypted. They couldn't get to it. And then it gets in the middle of the night without telling the web hosting company. They came back and put it back, and the web hosting company knew they did that because their security cameras showed them putting it back. So yeah, there is an issue with the data being taken, or a hacker hacking in and grabbing usernames and passwords. again, like Mish said, the important thing is you want to make sure your data is encrypted. There are some backup companies that do not encrypt your data.
Mm-hmm.
You want to is that company encrypts the data after it gets sent from your computer and then transfer it over to their servers. They then encrypt it. You don't want that because then that means the reps there, the employees there, can actually gain access to your data because they're the ones encrypting it. They're the ones that have the access to gain into it.
It's like sending somebody gold in a clear plastic container that everybody sees that there's gold inside to get to your safe that's all blacked out.
So what you want is a backup provider that you encrypt it before. Now, how do you know if you're encrypting it before it gets transferred up? Because typically, when you install the software, it'll ask you for like a passphrase, a key. It's a virtual key, like a key to your door, that someone needs to unencrypt it. And obviously, if you lose that passphrase, you're screwed. Right, so that's something you need to write down, remember, or do both, actually. But anyhow, so that's probably the biggest issue with off-site.
Yes. One of the things also with off-site or cloud-based, any kind of cloud-based computing is that it's not at your location, so you can't watch 24/7. But also, if somebody attacks, say like you have a rival. Actually, we had this happen. We had a rival that actually hacked our website, and we started doing. But our server for our website was in Melbourne, Australia, which means that he crossed international law. I mean, yes, it is a federal offense in the state, but like you say, like I hack somebody's computer next to me, like you hack Jason's computer. That's illegal, yes, but it's more of a crime where you get Interpol, you get a couple more agencies on your butt. So that actually, one thing about hackers is that somebody might try to get to it, but they're crossing many international lines, and it could be a very bad day for them because if we were able to find the one who did us, didn't do a very good job of hiding it. But when they heard that because they had already an FBI file, they were, "What do you mean it's in Australia?" He got all scared because that was he could be not just thrown in jail, but extradited to another country to go to jail there, because we do have extradition with Australia. Last I checked.
Right.
They don't have any guns, but whatever.
So, but again, the cloud, it can be anywhere.
It can be anything and anywhere. But the biggest thing also is like instant messaging or whatnot. Like that's in the cloud because that's being stored somewhere. So your conversations, your email is up in the cloud. Everything is saved. Everything you do on the internet is saved, which technically means it's out there for the entire world to see. So you want to be careful of what you put out there. Now, if you're a business, you're putting out there financial data and whatnot, of course, like just saying, you want to encrypt it, put passwords behind it, up the yin-yang. But if you're just as they say, Joe Schmo user, you kind of want to be careful that you don't like start illegal activity. Not, of course, a lot of things are illegal now that I think shouldn't be, but I won't go into that. I digress. But those kind of things are like, you know, if you start hate speech and all that kind of stuff, which you could be liable for, that stuff can be seen and used as evidence. It's one of the reasons why, like, if you record video and audio record police encounters, which you should, every police encounter, anytime you deal with a public servant, you should record it, even if it's the tax assessor, which, again, is illegal too, but whatever. people need to read this little thing called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It generally says, no, those are wrong.
You should carry a video recording device.
Yes,
For anything, especially when the meteorite crashes through your house, you can record it.
Yes, because the insurance companies are like, meteorite? Really? Yeah, it's on fire. I recorded it on my cell phone. Oh, crap. Do you have a meteorite insurance? They didn't offer that coverage. Insurance is also another big scam, but I won't go into that. There's so many scams out there. And that's also another thing is that that's why Jason said you want to do research on these off-site backups, any cloud-based, Joe's backroom, email server may not be the best place to put stuff.
And we're back here on the Tech Club on this Sunday morning. We'll wrap up the show. We've been talking about the cloud, what it is, and so forth.
And how scary it is. And
I don't think
it's less scary than most other things you do on the
people
internet.
Think it might be scary, but it's actually not.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the cloud is the internet, based bottom line. The intranet is your data stored somewhere in the internet, and that being a server somewhere else, email, Gmail, Yahoo, and all that is the cloud. Backing up your data offsite being on another server somewhere in the country is the cloud. They even have services that will back up your entire computer. If you had a server in your small office, it'll even back up your server. And if something physically happens to not just your server but your computers, you could actually access a virtual copy of your server and desktop computer via the cloud.
That's actually one of the actually access, server-based stuff is that, like, what's called RDP, remote desktop procedure protocol. And it was basically you connect into a server, you have a desktop, you do all the stuff, and it works. Cloud-based stuff is also like we use LogMeIn for a lot of little things. We also use GoToAssist to remote into people's computer, which makes it very cool. So you actually can use the cloud to say you're at work, it's 5 a.m. and you've been there all day. You remembered that somebody was supposed to email you or send you something or drop something off or plug something into your computer. You could log onto your home computer through the cloud and do whatever you needed, or grab a file.
Yep, absolutely.
Porn,
there's plenty
whatever.
of services like that. LogMeIn, probably the most popular one.
Yes, that and what's that other one? Go to my PC.
Yeah, go to my PC, LogMeIn, and there's a TeamViewer. That's the free one.
Yeah.
So your finance, if you take credit cards, that's through the cloud. So again, it's not as scary as you might think. Again, if you
want to be wary, but don't be scared off.
But it's typically cheaper through the cloud because, again, the cost to provide that service is divvied up between all their clients. So it usually is cheaper. Why should you buy all that hardware and
it's going to fail?
Worry about supporting that hardware when
say you don't even know what you're doing with regards to how to run a server. If you hired somebody, say going rate, say probably about $200,000. What? Year to pay somebody to do it for you, or if somebody you hire a company to do it, those parts are going to wear out, so you're going to need a new one in 2 years.
There's maintenance costs to keep up that server, those computers, and all that stuff. So
there's also liability.
Right. And again, if you have a server, what you really want is a second server to back up the first one if something happens in a different location.
Redundancy.
So it can get expensive. So
that's it for us this time. Next, that we're going to talk about social media. You guys have a great day.
Now,